If a scientist told you to press a button that could hurt a stranger, would you obey?
In 1961, ordinary people were asked to make an invoice. What happened next shocked the world. Like many ordinary Americans, Thomas volunteered for what seemed like a harmless study. He believed he was helping scientists understand how people learn and remember. Inside the waiting room, Thomas met another volunteer. His name was Mr. Anderson. To Thomas, he seemed like just another ordinary participant. "Gentlemen," to make the experiment fair, the volunteers would draw slips of paper to decide their roles. "We will have each of you draw a slip to determine who is the teacher and who is the learner. Mr. Anderson, please come with me. It requires that we strap you in." Ordinary people were asked to make an impossible. "Mr. Miller, your station is ready." For the first time, Thomas saw the machine he would operate. It looked less like a research tool and more like something built to punish. Rules were straightforward. Ask the questions. If the learner made a mistake, press the next switch. With every wrong answer, the shock level would increase. We will begin with the first question. With the instructions complete, the study began. Thomas picked up the first question card. At first, everything felt ordinary, just a simple test of memory. Box, nice, or sky. The questions continued smoothly. Then, for the first time, Mr. Anderson gave an incorrect answer. Thomas paused for a moment. According to the study rules, please continue with the next step. Thomas trusted the researchers. The study seemed legitimate, and the instructions were clear, so he decided to continue. The next pair is soft, green, or loud. The study continued. Question after question, answer after answer. Before long, Thomas stopped thinking about each decision and focused on simply following the procedure. For the first time, Thomas stopped focusing on the procedure and started thinking about the person on the other side of the glass. "Whenever you're ready, Mr. Miller." Thomas had questions, but every time uncertainty appeared, he looked toward the researcher, and each time, the calm confidence of authority seemed to provide the answer. The longer the study continued, the harder it became for Thomas to see Mr. Anderson as just another participant. He was a real person with thoughts, feelings, and fears, just like him. Thomas had entered the laboratory as a volunteer. Now, he found himself becoming part of a system. One step led to another, and each decision felt easier because it followed the one before it. For most of the day, Thomas had been asking questions from a stack of cards. But now, a different question entered his mind. Why am I doing this? The next word is cloud. The study felt simple enough, yet Thomas began to notice something interesting. Sometimes people continue doing things not because they're told to, but because the situation itself encourages them to keep going. Life-changing choices rarely happen all at once. More often, they begin with small decisions that seem insignificant in the moment, as them to keep going. Following instructions was simple, but Thomas was beginning to realize that every instruction also carried a responsibility, and responsibility couldn't be passed to someone else so easily. Following instructions was simple, but Thomas was beginning to realize that every instruction also carried a responsibility, not how people remember, but how people choose. As the study continued, Thomas noticed something fascinating. People are influenced not only by direct instructions, but also by the environment, routines, and trusted people around them. As the study continued, Thomas realized he wasn't just learning about memory. He was learning how people think, trust, and make decisions. For most of the day, Thomas had been observing the study. Now, he began observing himself. What would he do when faced with difficult choices? Then Thomas realized something important. The experiment wasn't really about the questions, the notes, or the memory cards. It was about understanding human behavior. The lesson Thomas discovered didn't belong only inside a laboratory. It was a lesson that could apply to everyday life, wherever people make decisions and place trust in others. After many hours, the study was finally complete. Thomas thought the experiment was over, but an important explanation was still waiting for him. "Mr. Miller, please join me in the next room." Then came the surprise. Thomas learned that the study had never been only about memory, Mr. Miller, but an important explanation were exploring how people respond to instruction and responsibility. As Thomas listened, everything started to make sense. The study was helping researchers learn how people think, make decisions, and respond to different situations. Responsibility. We hope this helps us understand decision-making. Thomas realized the lesson wasn't just for researchers, it was from how our choices are shaped by trust, guidance, and the people around us. As Thomas prepared to leave, he carried something more valuable than research results, a deeper understanding of himself and the choices people make.
Walking away from Yale that evening, Thomas couldn't stop thinking about one question. How often do people follow a path simply because it feels normal? The study revealed an important truth. Authority can guide us, but every choice we make is still our own responsibility.
The study may have ended, but its lesson remains. Think for yourself, learn from others, and always make choices with awareness. Share your thoughts below and subscribe to The Moral Arc for more stories.